A new Assassin's Creed multiplayer game called Project Invictus has been kinda silently announced for the Infinity platform during a presentation held by Ubisoft with the gaming press, and in this video we're going to share all the details we know about it, including the presumed characters that might appear in the game. In the video, we're also going to discuss some more news about the upcoming Infinity platform, some information about the planned post-launch support of the Project Red game set in Feudal Japan, some information about the direction that Ubisoft might pursue with Infinity in the future, and sadly, the absence of an Assassin's Creed 1 remake and a crossover with Origins, so let's dive in and have a look at all the recent news. While we were all still reeling from all the announcements at the recent Assassin's Creed showcase, the name of a new game or new experience has arisen, but only through interviews and articles, bringing the total of new and upcoming Assassin's Creed games to 6. So after the announcements of Assassin's Creed Mirage, the Project Jade mobile game, the mobile game planned for the Netflix platform, Project Hexe, and Project Red, we now know that there is a 6th experience being worked on at Ubisoft, and it's currently named Project Invictus, or codename Invictus. According to Ubisoft's website, Invictus is going to be the new take on the Assassin's Creed standalone multiplayer that executive producer Marc-Alexis Coté teased during the Assassin's Creed showcase, meaning that wasn't just a general discussion about investigating the possibility of the return of the multiplayer in Assassin's Creed, but actually it is now a fact that multiplayer is coming back to Assassin's Creed. Apparently, Invictus will be developed and delivered within the context of the Assassin's Creed Infinity platform, which is going to be a centralized hub for the Assassin's Creed games, where the team will try and fit not only the future games, but also the past of Assassin's Creed, as we'll see later. According to Axios, Invictus will be developed by a dedicated team that features developers who have worked on other Ubisoft multiplayer franchises like Rainbow Six Siege and For Honor, and in a dedicated Twitter thread, Axios' Steven Totilo shared some additional news about the game coming from a presentation held in Paris for the press and hosted by Marc-Alexis Coté himself. During the presentation, apparently Coté showed a slide for Assassin's Creed Invictus that Totilo described as more of a conceptual image showing Cassandra, Evie Frye, Ezio Auditore, Cesare Borgia, possibly Haytham Kenway, and the Minotaur. The implication being that this standalone multiplayer Assassin's Creed game might involve multiple classic characters. Totilo asked Coté if Invictus is planned to have a specific setting like other AC games, and the answer was no, which means that along with many classic characters, we could also have multiple environments for this new multiplayer game. IGN originally assumed that Invictus could be a free-to-play kind of game, which Coté did not deny by saying that it could be a possibility. Coté additionally commented that the concept art shown to the press for Invictus did indeed hint at the possibility of crossing over characters from different periods, so it seems like the team is going to have a type of game that quote-unquote bridges the various games together, and I wonder in what kind of context we'll be able to play as different characters at the same time. I'd imagine the animal simulations will come into play, but that is just speculation at this point. In an article on the Ubisoft News website, Coté was reported to say that he thinks that having multiplayer as its own standalone experience is a better approach, because fans have been worried in the past that the inclusion of multiplayer in a traditionally single-player game would have diverted time and resources from the development of the single-player part, so it looks like the single-player games like Red and Hexe will be developed by their dedicated teams at Ubisoft Quebec and Montreal, while the team working on Invictus will be focusing itself into creating multiplayer and multiplayer-only experiences. Like I said, Invictus is going to be part of the Infinity Hub, the platform where it will be available as a standalone game aside the newly announced Project Red and Project Hexe, and Axios is reporting that these last two games are going to have longer development times than the recent games, going beyond the usual 3 years of development. Red in particular, which is going to be developed by Ubisoft Quebec, is planned to have years of post-release content, similar to recent Assassin's Creed games, and I share the feeling described in the article by Axios. I can see some fans really happy for this, but I also remember a lot of fans feeling overwhelmed and fatigued by Valhalla's post-launch already at the end of its first year. Apparently, the other announced game for Infinity, codenamed Hexe, developed by Ubisoft Montreal, will be a shorter one. It's not clear if it's going to have a post-launch or not, and it will be a different type of game which apparently will be able to live concurrently with Red. I can only imagine fans dealing with content upon content on Red while Hexe gets released too. But apparently these three are not going to be the only experiences on the Infinity Hub, as indeed it was described by Axios as an interactive portal to access past, present and future games. Infinity in general will seemingly be the epitome of a Phase 3 or a Period 3 for Assassin's Creed as described by Ubisoft on its news website. Period 1 was defined by the action-adventure type of games which started with the first Assassin's Creed and carried on until Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Period 2 is the RPG era, that would mean of course Origins, Odyssey and Valhalla, and with Period 3, Cote mentioned that there will be an increase in the diversity of types of gameplay that are going to be featured in Infinity, meaning that there's not going to be an RPG game every year or an action-adventure game every year. Moreover, like we said earlier, Ubisoft is going to try and support their RPG games, such as Codename Red, for longer periods of time than the ones that we are used to, so I guess that at this point a 3-year post-launch support might not be out of the cards? I do feel fatigued just by thinking of that. As such, Assassin's Creed will not only have RPG games, and an example of that will be the recently announced codename Hexe. Cote didn't share any details about its gameplay other than saying that it's a new type of experience and that it will feature some innovative gameplay, but what piqued my interest is that he said that the teams will follow different quote-unquote creative tracks when working on the different games in order to surprise players. These creative tracks within Assassin's Creed are happening because now the franchise is spearheaded by two studios, Ubisoft Quebec and Ubisoft Montreal. The team behind Red, that is Ubisoft Quebec, will apparently focus on the RPG creative track and make sure it develops and evolves, meaning that it seems that only Quebec will take care of the RPG games from now on. The same will seemingly go with the studio behind Project Hexe, that is Ubisoft Montreal, as they will focus on a different track, meaning that Hexe might not be the only game featuring this type of gameplay in the future. This way, according to the Ubisoft News website, Assassin's Creed will be able to focus on one type of game at a time, but at the same time, the expertise on a specific type of genre will be focused on some specific studios at Ubisoft. Nonetheless, Axios is reporting that the nature of the Infinity Hub should also allow some studios like Ubisoft Chengdu, Sofia, and Singapore to work on smaller projects for the platform, but this is also where Axios reported that Cote confirmed that currently neither the Assassin's Creed 1 remake and a crossover set in Egypt are planned or in development, even though Cote did not fully close the door on the idea. So yeah, no AC1 remake coming, no Origins crossover coming as well, but a lot more to look forward to as for what concerns the Assassin's Creed Infinity platform, and it's now 3 main titles that have been announced, that is Project Invictus, Project Red, and Project Hexe. And if you'd like to know more about Red and Hexe specifically, we have just prepared a video dedicated to all the information that have been released at the recent Ubisoft Forward event. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.